Today is April 16th, the day that has been long awaited by many here in Norway. Today, Anders Behring Breivik will be placed on trial to be committed or committed into an institution to see if he is guilty or not of the crimes he has committed. All right, Breivik, time to go to court. Let's go, up! Help! Help!
Central nervous system.
Don't tell House that he's late. He's not gonna be happy.
You're late. Guess who just got admitted to the ER?
Who? Anders Breivik?
Who's that?
You don't know who he is?
No.
Don't you guys watch the news?
Oh, we spent half our life living in this hospital.
Educate yourselves. And I'll be back. I'll be resting. I'll be back.
Now to that savage shooting in Norway that left so many dead at a youth camp. The man who confessed to the horrific massacre that killed 93 people has said he wanted to start a revolution to take his country back from Muslims and other immigrants. Now he's in court today. ABC's Miguel Marquez is in Oslo right now with the latest. Good morning, Miguel.
Robin, Anders Behring Breivik is in court right now. He has admitted killing the 93 people here, but says he takes no criminal responsibility for it. He also says that he will explain himself in court today. All of this as the magnitude of the horror, what happened here, is coming into sharper focus.
It's a picture of horror. Teens barricade themselves in a cabin, mattresses against the door, their faces frozen in terror. Just outside, Anders Behring Breivik, dressed as a cop, killing at will.
He was just like going around killing people like it was no deal.
The horror went on for more than an hour. 700 people, mostly teens on the island. Some tried swimming for safety, only to be shot in the water. Kids hiding by the shoreline were shot point blank.
I could hear his breathing. I could also feel his boots very near me. And I could feel the warmth from the barrel when he pulled the trigger.
Incredibly, Adrian Procone survived by playing dead. Not all were so lucky. This photo captures a horrifying moment. From a TV helicopter, you can see the shooter taking aim, a victim seemingly pleading for mercy.
He yelled, "I'm going to kill you all." And he was very accurate on where he was shooting.
This yellow tent right back here, that's where the ferry comes in. That's also where the shooter boarded the ferry to take him to the island. One witness we spoke to says he was so convincing as a cop that officials from the island even came over to the ferry here, checked his credentials, and let him on.
The killer planned meticulously. An hour earlier and 23 miles away, Breivik detonated a massive remote-controlled bomb in central Oslo, possibly a distraction. 7 people killed, dozens injured. The streets became triage centers. Police, military, medics, all fully engaged and on alert. But this was just the warm-up act. Breivik's real target, Utoya Island, a camp for the nation's aspiring politicians. Hours before his murderous rampage, he posted this disturbing video and 1,500-page manifesto online. It's a racist, anti-Islamic rant calling on European right-wingers to embrace martyrdom.
Despite the horrors, we are hearing incredible stories of bravery as well. There was a 10-year-old boy on the island. Breivik held a gun to his head. The little boy began to yell at Breivik, telling him, "You've just killed my father. I'm only 10 years old. I don't deserve to die." And Breivik did not pull the trigger. The depth of tragedy here is nearly impossible to fathom.
So, what did we find out?
I don't feel comfortable treating a mass murderer. He's gone and killed 77 people.
What if we diagnose him, he gets released and goes and kills more people?
Well,
What if his actions are just a symptom of another illness, and we could treat him and make him better?
House, why are we even bothering to look at this case? He's already been diagnosed as schizophrenic.
Well, actually, 4 shrinks have already tried to diagnose him, and they haven't figured a friggin' thing right. So who the man? I the man. They send it to me, I'll figure it out.
You mean we're the team?
Yeah, that too.
Use this clip, not the other one.
Okay, theories?
I believe he's showing characteristics of psychopathy. Let's
Psychopathy?
not ignore the obvious. He appears to have a grandiose personality. He's very self-assured and domineering. He seems to be pushing his opinions onto others and doesn't understand why people would disagree with him. He's showing lack of empathy and guilt. He doesn't care that he had to shoot innocent people to complete his mission. He's had behavioral problems in his childhood as well. From his family history, with his parents divorcing, remarriage, and infidelity, along with his mother's mental regression and delinquence, he hasn't grown up in a stable family environment. A previous social welfare inquiry into Andrew's family situation conducted 28 years ago, when he was 4 years old, hinted that he may have been sexually abused as well. He also had pathological lying. He declared to the media that the psychologist that made up his last psych evaluation lied about almost 80% of the evaluation.
We can
So-
cut it out now if we need to,
Yeah.
and then just do a new one.
Well, get the patient a PCLR, and we'll find out for sure.
Hi there, I'm psychologist Shelby Thomas. I'm here today because I'm going to conduct what's called a PCLR with you. I'm just going to ask you a few questions and write down your answers and just answer them as honestly as you can. Do you understand? Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, so the first one. Do you find yourself getting bored easily?
Well, yes, I used to, but as of late, I've spent so much time planning my heroic plan, so no.
Okay. How about your sexual promiscuity? Do you find yourself bouncing around from woman to woman a lot?
I find women do not want to get married anymore. My mother, for example, was very promiscuous, and she contracted a disease from a man that she had an affair with. So I see that as very negative. So, no, I do not.
Okay. And do you find yourself lying a lot?
No.
Well, thank you for taking the time to meet with me.
Ha, guys! Guys! Guess who I am?
Oh.
Yeah, the PCLR came back inconclusive.
So, new theories?
So guys, I'm thinking that the problem could be possible acquired infection. A CT scan could show enlargement in the ventricles. Now, this is indicative of neural degeneration. What happens is the ventricles become engorged with CSF fluid to make up for the extra room. I've been skimming over Breivik's manifesto, and it states that his mother suffered from aseptic meningitis, which caused her to suffer a very high degree of neural degeneration, which she reverted back to a childlike state.
But doesn't something like 80% of the population suffer from aseptic meningitis? It's very rare that neural damage takes place, let alone in 2 cases.
Yes, that is true. But I also heard of genetic inheritance, especially in the mother, which means that if she was suffering from an underlying genetic disease causing her to have a compromised immune system, then if she had it, the gene would express itself absolutely in the son. Therefore, whatever is affecting his her immune system could be affecting his as well. So the psychiatrist also declared that his major symptoms started when he moved back home, in close proximity with his mother. Now, when he got there, he started displaying what she said was very strange behavior. He started wearing a mask. He started keeping himself from being in close contact with her because he was scared of contracting the disease from her. If the CT scan shows neural degeneration and he does have this disease, we could treat it. So somehow Breivik suffered from the same genetic predisposition that his mother had. He could exhibit the same symptoms as schizophrenia because this disease causes dementia, which could be which could explain the paranoid delusions and the violent outbursts. Combine all that with radical beliefs and it's a perfect recipe for disaster.
Well, order a lumbar puncture and a CT scan. We'll see how that comes out. Alright, it's time for your lumbar puncture. I'll be quiet, you baby.
There is no way that he has meningitis.
So lumbar puncture and CT scan were negative.
Obviously. How about you? What do you got?
Well, I was thinking about it, and I was reading over what the court-appointed psychologist said, and they claimed that Breivik was acting out his delusions, and that kind of got me to thinking, like, you know, maybe it was really delusional. Like, maybe I really am sticking to this whole, you know, I think what he did was a symptom. I don't think he just did it because he's crazy. I think it's a symptom of something. And I thought, what could this be a symptom of? And then it hit me. Borderline personality disorder. Think about it. He has a completely unstable self-image. He's had numerous plastic surgeries. He's always dressing himself up in these real masculine clothing, probably about some feminine complex that he got from his mother. He's got this grandiose sense of self that he thinks he's the Knights Templar of Europe, that he's going to come and save everyone and put all the Norwegians in breeding camps and reservations to try to create this superior Norwegian race. He thinks he's a part of this huge, heroic operation to save Europe. Not even that he's a part of it, he thinks he created it. Borderline patients are known to hurt themselves or commit suicide. So are political assassins, and political assassins also suffer from borderline personality disorder. Breivik also thought he was going to be a matriarch and get himself killed by the Norwegian security forces during his heroic operations to save Europe. He was clearly emotionally unstable. He had this like crazy emotional link to his mother. He just couldn't let go of her. He couldn't live with her. He couldn't live without her. He can't even put the focus on the fact that his stepfather ruined his life. He just focuses on his mother and how his mother is shaming him, and like he couldn't even drop her maiden name in his name. He kept it as his middle name and took on another last name. He just believes that, like, in the same way that his stepfather infected his mother, Muslims are infecting Norway. I mean, think about it. He's applying his own personal life onto what happened in Norway. His mother was infected by someone, Europe was infected by Muslims, and if you really believe that something you love and have such an attachment to is being hurt and demolished and ruined, of course you're going to do anything you can to protect it. Of course you'd come up with these crazy ideas. I mean, he's just acting out what he really believes he can do to save this country. Being Norway, not this country, thank God. Anyways, so I really think it's this. I mean, he has other symptoms too. He has poor rationality testing. He actually wrote, all of my friends can attest to this. I would not be willing to hurt a fly. Clearly he would be willing to hurt a fly. There's just so many things that point to this. He even had daddy issues with his sense of attachment. He wrote his manifesto under a pen name of Andrew Berwick. His English alias wasn't an accident. I bet he thought that if he had an English alias and was closer to being an Englishman, his father would have paid more attention to him and loved him more. I'm standing by this. I think he has borderline personality disorder.
If that's what you think, go evaluate the patient further and we'll see what happens.
I will.
She's in my chair.
Hello? Hello? Yeah, is this... I'd like to make an order of... What do you want, House? What do you want?
Mugu Gai Pan?
Mugu Gai... What?
Moo,
Moo.
as in a cow.
Cow
Goo
Gai.
as in Goo Goo Gaga.
Mugu Gai Pan food, and I want some sweet and sour chicken fried rice. Yeah, just a number 3. Thank you.
Guys, I think that we really need to take another look at schizophrenia. I mean, I understand that the court has ordered a new evaluation on it because they're disproving the first one, but I think he shows a lot of symptoms of schizophrenia. He shows social withdrawal, flat affect, many different kinds of grandiose, bizarre, and paranoid delusions. Like, he's socially withdrawn, right? He stopped talking to his father at the age of 15, moved back in with his mother, has no friends, no girlfriend, doesn't have a job, pretty socially withdrawn. During his first interview with the psychiatrist, he showed a lot of flat affect. They said that he had a very reduced facial expression. He wasn't even able to recognize his own, emotions. He had a really emotional distance from his situation. And the delusions he's having, we all have to agree that he's delusional. He uses terminology suggesting that there's a civil war going on in the country. He believes that the Muslims are going to take over. He thinks that his actions, the murders, will lead to sympathy and support of millions of Europeans, and thinks that his policies are going to become the dominant political orientation of the future. He thinks that he was contributing to ridding the evil in the country. He thought he had the power to choose who lives and who dies. Plus, he had all these paranoid delusions. He thought that he was more vulnerable to infections than anyone else. Like you said, he was always wearing a mask around his mother. And he, in 2009, he believed that he was being monitored by the civilian police, and a European intelligence agency had tapped his phone lines. And then in 2010, he believed that the police had installed cameras in his home to spy on him. So he shows paranoia, he shows delusions, he shows flat affect, he shows social withdrawal. I think it's something we really need to take another look at. And these delusions could have easily led to this murder. I mean, did you guys know that 11.3% of men with schizophrenia actually commit violent offenses? And 58% of offenders with psychotic symptoms who have committed a serious violent offense were actually driven by their delusions. Schizophrenics have a 5 times greater chance of committing a violent crime than the general public. And actually, 1% of people are actually diagnosed with schizophrenia only on the basis of their delusions and are treated successfully for it. So there's a very good chance that he could actually be schizophrenic.
Well, looks like we're back to where we started.
Did you just take another Vicodin?
No.
I think you're taking too many of those. Did you just take 3?
No.
Yes, you did.
They're yummy. They're my pills. I need to take them.
House! House! Oh my God! Will the defendant please rise? Order! Order in the court! Thank you. After a lengthy deliberation, the jury has come to a conclusion. They have found Anders Behring Breivik as